Hi everyone, welcome back. And in this video, we're going to be going over the TryHackMe box called Expose. Now, I've already completed this box in advance, so I'm just going to be going over basically some of the things that I did. This is going to be a simple walkthrough, so let's get started. I already have the attack machine started. Well, I guess this is just the regular machine, not the attack machine. In this video, we're using Kali with the OpenVPN. So we already have our IP address here. Let's go ahead and copy this IP address. The first thing that I always do is run an nmap scan. We're gonna do nmap. I'm gonna do SV to show versions. I'm not really gonna do much else besides that. Okay, so we do have some ports open here. We have 21 for FTP, 22 for SSH, and 53, which is gonna be DNS. I am kind of hoping for something a little bit more. We can kind of look at FTP here. So if I do FTP and then we'll do the IP address, we could try login using anonymous. We're not going to specify a password. So it looks like you can log into this box using the anonymous username with no password. And when we do look for any kind of directories, it's really empty. So there's nothing helpful in FTP. So this kind of could be just to throw you off. So let's get out of here. What I'm going to do now is run an nmap scan again. This time we're going to scan for all the ports. Now by default, nmap only scans for the most common 1000 ports. This is going to scan for all of the ports, which is up to like 6,500 and some change. So let's try and see if there's anything outside those top most common 1000 ports. That does take a minute, so I cut it out. But we do have an HTTP server running Apache. We have it on port 1337, and then we have this Mosquito service as well. Let's go ahead and take a look at the HTTP server. Here it just says exposed. So not very helpful. I can kind of take a look at the page source and see that, again, nothing really is helpful here. When I do have a web page like this or just a web server, I want to go ahead and do some directory busting. So we can use dirbuster here, or GoBuster is another popular one. Let's use dirbuster. I am going to put in the target URL. And if you are using Kali, there are some directory busting lists that you can use on your own, like they're just preloaded on there, or you could use seclist, download something if you have kind of any of your own preferences. Here we're just going to use one that's already on Kali. The word list that we're using can be found in the Derby directory, and it's called big.txt. So let's go ahead and start that. It will take a couple minutes to really kind of get anything useful, so we'll just wait that out. Okay, here we do have some results. So we see that there is an admin directory. We can go to that one. We're presented with an authentication portal. Here we have an email address and a password. So let's just do test to see what happens. When you click continue, the button does not work. So, here, is this the right admin portal is probably a good clue, but let's take a look at the page source and see if there's anything. And no, it doesn't look like there's anything that's going to be helpful in here. So we'll go back to our dirbuster results, see what else we have. We have admin 101. Let's go ahead and check out that directory. It looks very similar, except this time there is an email address that's already autofilled. So hacker@root.phm. And for the password, let's try something maybe SQL related. So I will always just put in like a little apostrophe here and continue. This actually does give us some information back this time, so the button does work. Here we can see it has the IP address with the port number, and it's just an error. So this kind of gives you a clue that there is some kind of SQL injection that you might be able to take advantage of. There's a couple different ways that you can go about this. The way that we're going to go about it in this video is by using a SQL map. The first thing that I'm going to do is open burp. It doesn't come pre-installed in Kali, so you might have to install it yourself if you are using that. If you're using Windows, you'll also have to obviously install that. What I want to do is be able to proxy the request that's being sent for the authentication, see the request that contains that email address and password. So we're going to go ahead and use our proxy. I'm going to do the settings really quick so you don't have to worry about that. Okay, now that we have the settings done, I'm going to go ahead and resend this. Let me see if this will get that error again. We have the error, and then here we have the request that was being sent, and we have a response. I'm going to save this request in a file that we are going to use with SQL Map. I want to make sure to clear out that apostrophe that we have in the password field and just go ahead and leave that blank. And now we have that saved. SQL Map is already pre-installed in Kali, so you don't have to download that, thankfully. We're going to do SQL Map -R for requests and add our file here. We're going to add the batch command and the dbs command. Okay. So that has completed, and now we can see that the available databases that we have are Expose, Information Schema, MySQL, Performance Schema, PHP/MyAdmin, and Sys. I'm most excited and interested in the Expose database. I want to find out what tables are in that database. So we're going to use a similar command with SQL Map. We're going to do request file that we use, batch command, and then we're going to do -D and expose, so the -D database, and we're gonna look for the tables, if I can spell that correctly. That was quick. We do have two tables here. We have user and config. Obviously, user is going to be interesting to me because that table probably has usernames and passwords that we would want. So same command. What we're going to do at the end is just go ahead and dump both these tables. We do have a user in our table here with the email address that was pre-populated, and we have the password here as well. We can go ahead and try and use that password. And it looks like it did accept, and we do have this page that was presented to us says we're at capacity right now. We're trying to resolve this issue as soon as possible. And so not like really a whole lot of information here for us to use. Let's kind of go back and look at what else we have in this file. So we were able to log in using that information. We do have this config table as well that we dumped. Here we can see that there's two URLs. So we have this one here, which is this file, an index.php. This has a password hash and it was cracked. The password is easy to hack. And then we also have this uploads directory, and it says only accessible through a username starting with Z. The username that we have does not start with a Z. Let's go and navigate to this file system because we do have a password for it. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that selection. We're going to go ahead and type in that password. It says parameter fuzzing is also important, or can you hide DOM elements? For me, this makes me want to look at the page source here so I can look at if there's anything that we can't actually see on that page. So down here you can see what we read, and then we have a hint that we're not able to see on the page. And this says try file or view as get parameters. This hint makes me think of a file inclusion vulnerability. So probably we will have access to files on the actual server that we probably shouldn't have access to as just any kind of user. Here we do have admin rights, but there are some local files that you probably shouldn't have access to from the web server. One of those files would be, for instance, like the password file. Let's see if we can access that. I'm going to go ahead and come back here where we have the index.php. We'll do the question mark, and then we'll do file equals, and then I'm going to see if we have access to that. So we have the authentication prompt again. we do have access to that file, which is perfect. You're going to see some information about users, things like that. If you do remember the hint that we got from SQL Map, we are trying to find a username that starts with a Z so that we have access to that upload directory. If you do look at the bottom, we have this Zeem Kish. That's the username here. So let's remember that and see if we can now access this uploads directory and navigate there. Okay, please enter the password. Hint, it is the name of the machine user starting with Z. So we're gonna go ahead and type in Zeem Kish. Now we have access to this upload directory. I'm gonna go ahead and browse the files here. I really don't have too much. It looks like though, when I do browse, it is looking for, and if you can see at the bottom here, PNG. Another way you can kind of check this sometimes is if you look at the page source, you can see post, multiple data, valid form, file, and it accepts PNG files. This page is using PHP, and we know that it only accepts PNG files. What I would like to do is try and get a shell on this machine. To do that, we're going to need to upload a file that is a PHP script for a backdoor, and it's going to have to be a PNG format. There's a couple ways to get past these like upload requirements that only accept certain file types. Let's go ahead and get the file that we need first. So Kali does have a couple scripts pre-written, but other people like to use either their own, and there is other tools available. I know Pentest Monkey also has a popular shell. So let's just go ahead and copy the file that we have on Kali. So I copied that into our current directory so that we can edit it and add the information. If I go into Vim here, I'll be able to change that information. Some of the information that you're going to want to change in this specifically is you're going to want to add your own IP address to this. So if you're using a VPN, you're going to want to use that tunnel IP, and then you're going to want to add a port. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and save the file. Now that we have that file updated, I'm going to append a .png extension after the .php extension to see that we can bypass that upload restriction. All right, now that I have that saved, I'm gonna go ahead and browse. One thing that we are going to want to do as well is we're gonna go back to using burp. So here I was able to select the file, and I'm gonna do is turn intercept on. This way I can make changes before actually sending that request. For uploading it, we have it. Let's go ahead and hit upload. And now we see this request. What I'm going to do is take a look at this request here, and I am going to remove this .png from that file extension, and the content type we still have the image-png. Again, there's a lot of ways, different ways that you can try and bypass these upload restrictions. This is just one of many. Sometimes multiple ways work, sometimes only one way works, sometimes no ways work. So we'll go ahead and try this way. So I'm going to go ahead and forward that request now that we've changed it. And we have a message that says file uploaded successfully. Maybe look in source code to see the path. I'm going to go ahead and turn intercept off here so that we can make changes and requests without it holding us back. So viewing page source, I'm looking for a file path for the uploads directory. Here we go. Right down here, we can see this upload folder. I'm going to go ahead and append it here. So we can see that we have our script right here. So PHP reverse shell expose.php. So that worked. We were able to bypass that upload restriction. Now what we're going to need to do is fire up Netcat. We're going to listen on the port that I specified in our shell script. And now that we're listening, I'm going to go ahead and click on our shell here. Let's see. Do we have? Yes, we're in. Haha. Okay. Now let's go ahead and see what is in here. I'm going to go, so we have access to a lot of directories. I'm going to go and check out the home directory. And we do have Zeem. So let's go ahead and see if he has any files that are helpful to us. And we do have a flag.txt file and we have SSH creds. So let's see if we can access the flag file. And we have permission denied. So let's try the SSH file. And we do have creds here. We'll try and access and authenticate with SSH. Now we'll try to authenticate with SSH. We use the password that we've found in that file that we had accessed, and we do have access. We were able to successfully authenticate. Now we'll try and access that flag file. And there we go. We have one of our flags. Now there is a second flag that we need for this. Typically you need to get root access. So we have the user flag. Now we're going to need to get root. One of the first things that I always try when trying to get root access is seeing if there's any either applications or services that you can use that have the SUID, so the set user ID bit turned on. That means that that specific application has access to root and it uses those permissions to run. So the way you can do that is there's a couple, actually, of course, there's always a couple ways, but what we're going to do is find //user root perm -4000 print 2. All right, let's see. Okay, that command worked perfect. So now we're looking at all of these applications or services that have that set user ID set. Now that it's completed, the first thing that is going to stand out to me is Nano, which is a text editor. Let's see if we can access that file using Nano. There you have it. There's our root flag. That is going to complete this box for us. Hopefully you were able to learn something. I'm going to come out with a couple more videos of this. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. If there's a specific room that you would like me to complete, let me know. And yeah, thanks for joining. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see y'all in the next video. Goodbye.